Diversity and inclusion is this really interesting intersection between social concerns and business. And whether we like it or not, the things that go on within society in general makes its way into the workplace, whether it's through employees or directly affects it. And so we have to begin to have comfort in having dialogue and conversations around a lot of these things. I think it's really important. And I personally believe one of the biggest challenges historically for diversity and inclusion has been the inability, the fear, the lack of desire to have serious conversations. As a matter of fact, I would say the need to be politically correct has gotten in the way of us being able to address some of the things that we really need to address. If we're engaging in dialogue within our organizations around diversity and inclusion, and I have people afraid to talk to me because they may say the wrong thing, or they may get it a little bit wrong, then it completely defeats the purpose of what we're trying to do. So sometimes you have to go through the weeds and through the ugly grass to get to the good part. And so the premise is, we're all in this thing together, and so we should be able to have the conversations that we need to have in order to really make this thing work. Are you with me? Yeah. Can I get my white brothers to raise their hands, please? We're gonna do a pledge. You are part, in all seriousness, if you're not a part of this effort, it is gonna fail. The airline industry is sort of an old industry that has been testosterone heavy for years. And what we're doing is fighting and trying to figure out how to be disruptive to this thing. And so we look at women in STEM, we look at minorities in STEM to begin to try and sort of change that dynamic. And as a company, we were going to this organization called OBAP, the Organization of Black Aerospace Professionals, to hire pilots. But it turns out that in OBAP, only about 10% of the, let's call it 2,000 conference attendees are minorities. Because what happened? They found out the major airlines are going to be there, so everyone is there. And so while we're not looking to exclude anyone from actually interviewing with us, but we wanted to create diversity within the pilot ranks, and so we told the organization, can you give us your top X number of members so that we can have an exclusive conversation with them? We're gonna talk to everyone else and we're gonna hire them as well. But we wanna see how we can get our hands on the diversity, and we did that, and we did it successfully. As a matter of fact, it was so successful that this year it's gonna be how we hire pilots in general. So we're gonna actually do these more intimate conversations with hundreds of people over the course of the year. So that practice on focusing on how to get more diverse pilots turns out to be a practice that should be used on how we look at our pilots in general. And I would argue it's the same thing with recruiting, it's the same thing with promotions, it's the same thing with succession, all of those things. The conversations that you have, the looks that you take should be a part of it. And here's the amazing thing. Once you start to do that as a leader, and as you get comfortable with it, two things happen. One, you find out that it doesn't kill you. Oh my God, I didn't die. Two, you find out that you just sort of in general get better. It actually changes you as a leader. I am going to ask you all to begin to think a little bit differently about diversity and inclusion. What are the conversations that you should have? What are the conversations that you aren't having? Because I don't believe that in corporate America we are all that we can be because we're operating at 60% capacity. And we're not talking about having the answers to all of these questions, but there's something about having the dialogue and starting the dialogue that's really important if your organization says diversity and inclusion is important. Find someone to go and begin the conversation with. At least for now, someone that you feel safe with to begin this dialogue with. And don't run away from it when you feel awkward in it.